Hey, The Binding of Isaac and its two expansions, Afterbirth and Afterbirth Plus, makes an amazing game with infinite replayability. In this video, I will be going over the story, the gameplay, and the community for the game. The Binding of Isaac has a really simple story. So basically, you're this kid named Isaac, and you live with your mom in your little Christian household. But then, God comes to your mom and says, yo, your kid isn't good, you gotta take away all this stuff. So then Isaac's mom runs into his room, takes away all of his stuff, takes away his Game Boy and everything, and Isaac's all like, no, but then God comes to your mom another time. Then God is all like, yo, I hate your kid, put him in his room for the rest of his life. So Isaac's mom locks him in his room, and she took away all of his stuff. There's nothing for him to do. He might as well just die. Oh, hey, speaking of death, that brings me to my next point. God comes to Isaac's mom one more time and just all like, hey, yo, kill your kid. I don't even care anymore. So then she gets a knife. She starts walking over to Isaac's room. Then Isaac sees it all through his door, which is probably all that's been entertaining him this whole time. And he's just like, oh, God, I'm actually gonna die. I would have rather had boredom than death. But then, with Isaac looking all over his room, he notices a trapdoor under his rug. And so, he lifts it open right as his mom opens the door. Then he jumps down, and the game finally begins. But that's not all, because The Binding of Isaac and its two expansions, they all have endings, but I will be going over the endings in the gameplay section, so stay tuned for that. Oh boy, it's the part where I talk about the gameplay with gameplay in the background. Well, okay, where do I start? What type of game is The Binding of Isaac? Well, it's a roguelike, and if you don't know what roguelike is... Okay, think The Legend of Zelda. No, not that one. The original Legend of Zelda for the Nintendo. That's the simplest example of a roguelike I can think of off the top of my head. When you look into the core gameplay of The Binding of Isaac, you can see it takes many influences from the original Legend of Zelda. And who can blame them? The original Legend of Zelda is an amazing game, filled with exploration and amazing gameplay, so it's no wonder why The Binding of Isaac is another amazing game. But whereas in The Legend of Zelda, you go through these vast valleys and luscious forests, and you go out to the ocean and find islands, in The Binding of Isaac, you're just going through these dungeon-like basements, and even going to these horrific places that no child such as Isaac should ever go. Now onto the controls of the game. The game controls very smoothly. Now, I use a Steam controller. What are those things?! Okay, I get that it's kind of like a quirky controller and everything, but it's two little like flat circle things. You never even use them in The Binding of Isaac. So I'll go over the controls now. Movement is done with the joystick, obviously, and you can shoot in 4 directions, which is what I love about the Steam controller. It has 4 buttons, A, B, X, Y, and they all correspond to the directions that Isaac can shoot his tears or many other projectiles. You use your, quote, active item with the right trigger, and then you use your bombs with the right button, and then a bunch of other items that go in your offhand with the other shoulder buttons. More about the gameplay other than the controls. Well, no two games play the same. You see, the game works on these things called seeds, which are just predetermined, like, things, but they're completely randomized, so no game you get the same items, the same enemies, the same floor patterns, the same bosses. Everything is randomized, making for a truly replayable experience every single time you beat it. It makes you want to play the game again and again. Then take, for instance, the randomized items. Okay, so Isaac shoots tears in 4 directions. Say he gets the item Mom's Knife, which actually allows him to shoot a knife in 4 directions. Say he gets the item Loki's Horns, which allows him to shoot all of his tears in 4 directions at the same time. No need to even aim. They shoot behind him and both of his sides, including his front. But that's all randomized and everything. Unless you get Mom's Knife, which then you become like this little knife helicopter thing, and it's awesome. Phew, I got a bit too excited there. The items are just so amazing. Alright, what else can I talk about? Oh, the health system is amazing in the Isaac series. There are 3 main types of health in The Binding of Isaac. Red health, which is just easily replenishable, most enemies being able to drop little heart containers, and even you're given health items at the end of each boss battle, basically. And then there's soul hearts, which are a bit rarer, and they're basically like armor. Protecting, if you have red health, it protects your red health by going in the front of your health bar. And then there's black hearts, the rarest of the 3, acting the same way as soul hearts, so why would you want the black heart? Well, you see, whenever you lose a full black heart, it hits every enemy in the room the same amount of damage that, say, the item the Necronomicon would do. It just attacks every enemy in the room for a large sum of damage. Obviously not enough to kill a boss in one hit, but basically to insta-kill every lighter enemy. Phew, that covers the health. Oh wait, forgot a huge part of the health. Devils! Love 'em or hate 'em, usually hate 'em, but in Binding of Isaac's case, they're actually pretty good, I guess. Devil deals are actually a really simple concept. Basically, they reward players for taking the least amount of damage in a single run, and they reward the player by being able to give away that health that they kept throughout the game for some amazing items. Now, of course, not all items are exclusive to the Devil Room, you can find them easily, but some items, such as like Dead Cat for instance, it gives you 9 lives. It's an amazing item, a must-have for certain characters, and you can just find it laying around. Here's my reaction to finding it just lying around in one run. Yeah, dude, Goes is only like a meh tier item, I guess, but I mean, when I get like a good depth. Is that, oh my, dude, that's actually Dead Cat. I just got it on the first floor, dude. I'm only a minute into this run. I'm just gonna throw away this game, but I think I'm actually gonna go all the way through it now. Oh my god. You're not just gonna get god tier items like that, just all willy-nilly thrown around you. You're actually gonna have to work for them sometimes. That's why they're confined to Devil Rooms. Now, of course, in that clip, I got lucky by just finding it in a red chest, which the red chest is tied to the Devil Room pool. Well, let's just say that Devil Rooms aren't your thing. Like, you don't like all that Satan stuff. Well, you could just flat out ignore them, and you actually give you a cool, like, alternative. The Angel Rooms. You get free items every round, of course, without taking a hit, but they're significantly worse than the devil items. So you're probably thinking, why the heck would I ever want an angel deal when the devil deals are so much better? Well, you see, to get the true ending, in heavy quotes, you actually need to get the angel rooms. Alright, I think that's as good a time as any to go right into the story part of the game. Remember how simple I said the Binding of Isaac's story was? Well, that all changes here, folks. The story actually gets really complicated after the whole beginning part. Right after you beat Mom for the first time in the game, you get a whole new ending, and it's actually structured very similar to the beginning of the game. Isaac is cornered in his room, Mom towering over him. She's speaking words to her god, who she believes is telling her to kill her child. But then, right when Isaac is accepting his fate, God sends an angel to move a Bible and to hit his mom over the head, which obviously kills her, or at least concusses her or something. But then we get a picture of Isaac in the real world, revealing that all of this was just in his imagination. They were just these drawings, and he's happy that he finally finished his drawings. But then his mom comes in, bearing a knife. Now, what does all of this tell us about the story? Now, obviously it tells us that Isaac has a very active imagination, and that the whole beginning, and basically the entire game, is all happening in Isaac's head. Now, that might be lazy, oh, it's all a dream kind of deal, but it actually makes a lot of sense. But what happened at the end? Why did Isaac's mom come into his room bearing a knife? Did that actually happen? Well, that might also be in Isaac's head. He might actually believe that his drawings are coming to life, that his mom is actually after him. Maybe it's for drawing these. Or maybe he's scared of something bigger. Something lying inside of him. The endings in Isaac are very strange. 12 of them are Isaac opening a chest right after he kills his mom. So, what's so special about this chest? And why does he get these horrific items that a child should never have his hands on? Well, it might be something in Isaac's mind that's telling him to think of this. The first time he opens this chest, he doesn't get anything out of it. He instead climbs in it. The box shakes a bit, and then a holy light comes out. And Isaac comes out floating with white hair, and his eyes glow. This actually symbolizes that Isaac died in the chest, whether it be to whatever horrific item he got, or whether he just crawled in and suffocated to death, which actually is a whole nother ending. Isaac finds a chest, like he always does, and he opens it, and he finds the most horrific scene that no child should ever see. He finds his own dead body in the chest, blue from being not able to breathe, with its eyes crossed out. Isaac then spirals into madness. Who wouldn't? You just saw your own dead body. So clearly the chest that Isaac is getting into is deadly, and he shouldn't be going into it. But that all kind of changes when in the game, when Isaac confronts Satan and obviously kills him, there's another chest. He finds it, opens it like how he always does, and then he flashes into all the personas that he created over the years. And then we're back to real life Isaac, and he's actually at the chest that he found in the basement, and he decides to climb in. This isn't too dissimilar to all the other times we've seen Isaac climb into the chest, but this time he has flashbacks, basically, of all the personas he had created through the years, all the bad memories, good memories, everything. And they all end with him looking into this chest, as if he had planned this all along. Another ending that shows us a lot about Isaac and his whole family life is the ending you get after beating the chest. It's these Polaroids, which is actually what you get to get into the chest, and it shows, at first, a picture of a happy family. Then Isaac and his mom wearing wigs, being together like a happy family. But then it starts to deteriorate to something much more sinister. We see a picture of Isaac next to his demons. Then we see Isaac's mom and dad alone in one picture, symbolic of how they kind of just kept ignoring Isaac. And then it's Isaac alone outside, and it's Isaac lying next to the chest, symbolizing about how he thought about killing himself that way for a really long time. Then it's his mom brandishing a knife at the camera, threatening whoever the cameraman is. And then it's their dad leaving. And then the ending ends. This shows that Isaac lived in an unstable household, his mom threatening everybody she met until his dad could not take it anymore and left the family. This devastated Isaac and made him think that his mom was much more violent than she probably actually was. This next ending shows the aftermath of what happened to Isaac's mom after he went into the chest, never to return. Missing poster, breezing in the wind, and then you see Isaac's mom desperately looking for Isaac on the horizon, having no idea what her child's fate truly was. This next ending is kind of it's what I called the heavy quoted true ending, but you get it by having only angel deals, and you kill the angels every time you see them. They give you keys, and you fight Mega Satan. After you kill Mega Satan, it gives you this ending. Isaac lays curled up in the chest, his dead cat Guppy not too far away from him. He changes from his demon form several times, quickly flashing in and out. He's audibly having a very hard time breathing, as he's in the chest with no air. And then, when it ends, he stays in his demon form for what seems to be the rest of his life in the chest, or what little there is. The ending after this one is obtained by killing Hush, which is the representation of Isaac struggling to breathe, not wanting to be killed in the chest, regretting all of his decisions. After you kill them, you get this ending. The ending begins with the same missing poster we saw a couple endings ago, but Isaac's mom is nowhere to be found. Then you see her standing over the chest that Isaac buried himself in. She opens the chest, finding Isaac's corpse. Now a skeleton from all the years it's been in there. This mirrors how much she neglected Isaac as a child and before he died. Then it's in this very desolate land, and Isaac comes out of the chest. He's in purgatory, and the demons behind him arise and consume him in the darkness. Him being in purgatory represents how his soul is so confused on what it should do that it just gets caught up in everything and decides to stay in purgatory. This could also be interpreted as Isaac's mom not wanting to let go of her child. Although he's dead, she still wants to have that memory of him. But because she never buried him, he's still in purgatory forever. The next, and quote, final ending occurs when you defeat Delirium, the manifestation of Isaac's mind deteriorating as he succumbs to the lack of oxygen inside the chest. In-game, Delirium takes face of every single boss that Isaac has faced in his playthrough, and when you finally defeat him, he gives you this ending, a prize for the boss fight you just had to witness. A probably very familiar scene by now, we see Isaac struggling to breathe inside the chest. The scene then cuts to Isaac happy, making his drawings like how he always does. But then it cuts back to him in the chest, and then it cuts to his mom, crying in her chair. We then get a scene of the chest, filled with burnt images, torn images, and it goes into focus with the image in the mom's hand, or maybe it's Isaac's hand, and it's
torn out the father of the image, showing that the father has officially been cut from all ties of Isaac and his mother. This also shows us that while Isaac was in the box, there were the torn photos, which explains the one ending where it showed all the Polaroids. And then it shows Isaac, now blue, barely breathing in the box anymore, and then makes one final cut to a bunch of pictures on the wall, seeming innocent at first, but then they become these images of Satan and him killing his family, and then it fades to black. Isaac's mom, now knowing his son's fate, the missing poster goes away with the wind, and we finally see Isaac move away from the chest in purgatory. The story of the Binding of Isaac is a very sad one, and none of this is laid out to the player. You have to come up to this conclusion yourself. It's what I came up with. This is completely up to interpretation by anybody. You could see this with Isaac dying in the chest, and that's it. You can see it as Isaac's mom keeping the full feeling of him in the chest. But this is just my interpretation. And overall, I think that the story of the game is absolutely perfect. Even with the DLCs adding on to it. It definitely wraps up the whole thing. The only question is, where does Isaac go in purgatory? To get off that sad note, I'm going to show you the whole community of the Binding of Isaac in one image. Here we go.